The air inside the small sitting room thickened as Obi held the ancient envelope like a relic pulled from the grave. The candlelight flickered against its wax seal, casting long, trembling shadows across the walls, shadows that seemed alive, crawling, whispering, remembering what human mouths feared to speak. Mama Ngozi sat hunched forward, hands clasped tight as if praying, though no prayer in this world was strong enough to protect them from the truth sealed inside that yellowed paper. Kayoma stayed close to him, her chest rising and falling unevenly, her fingers brushing his arm in silent support. Her eyes glistened, not with fear alone, but with the knowledge that she was about to lose the last illusion she once held about the Okonkwo legacy, about the man she married, about the world they thought they understood. Obi inhaled once, deeply. Then he broke the seal. The sound was soft, yet it ripped through the room like thunder. Inside was a folded stack of papers brittle with age, stained with the fingerprints of ghosts long dead. He unfolded the first page, the candlelight revealing a script written in shaky, hurried handwriting. A confession. A story. A map of a past drowned in blood. Kayoma leaned closer as Obi began to read. And the room fell into silence so thick it threatened to suffocate them all. 50 years earlier. The words on the first page pulled them into another time, another Nigeria where the streets of the Delta ran with oil money, unchecked power, and the ruthless hunger of men who carved territories with machetes and fires. Chief Okonkwo had not always been chief. He had once been a young man named Elias Cormac, a name as foreign as the shadow he carried. A man who came to the Delta from the river banks of Old Calabar not by lineage, but by exile, exiled for witnessing something he should never have seen. He had come running from a massacre. A massacre orchestrated not by outsiders, but by the Okono family. The Okono dynasty had once been the giants of the Delta. Feared. Untouchable. Rich beyond measure. But their power had not come from commerce alone. It had come from a pact, a dark, unspoken alliance with a cult known only as the Circle of the Bone Drum, a secret society older than colonial rule. The Circle demanded loyalty. The Circle demanded blood. The Circle demanded heirs. When Elias accidentally stumbled upon one of their blood rites, when he saw the disappearance, the sacrifice, the chanting, he was marked for death. He fled. But the Okonos followed. And in their pursuit, in their hunger to protect their secret, they destroyed their own lineage. The eldest son, Nkem, killed by the second son. The second son murdered by the father. The mother taking poison to escape the madness in her home. By the time the blood stopped flowing, only one Okono heir remained. A baby. Less than a year old. Left crying beside the bodies of his family. Elias found the child. He carried the boy away from the inferno that had once been the Okono household. He vanished with him. And he raised the child as his own. That child had grown up to become. Kayoma's breath caught in her throat. Obi whispered the truth before she could speak it. Me. But the letter continued. Elias raised the boy in secrecy. For years, he lived like a shadow, working small jobs, taking new identities, moving constantly from state to state to keep the boy hidden from the remnants of the Circle, who relentlessly hunted the last Okono heir. At 19, Elias rebranded himself. He took a new name. He forged a new legacy. He built a new empire. And the boy he saved became his adopted son, his successor, his legacy. Not by blood. But by choice. Chief Okonkwo never had a biological child. But he had his son. He had Obi. Mama Ngozi's breath broke into a stuttering gasp. I kept this secret for 40 years because Elias begged me. He said Obi's life depended on it. If anyone knew he was the last Okono heir, he would not live to see 20. Kayoma pressed a hand against her mouth, tears running freely. Obi sat motionless as the truth carved itself into him like a blade. His heart beat like a drum against his ribs. He turned the page. The second truth. Beneath the confession lay old photographs, black and white images blurred with dust in time. One photo struck him hardest. A burned compound. Bodies. Symbols carved in the dirt. A baby held by a young Elias, his face fierce with defiance. The second page was a warning. The Okono dynasty was never truly destroyed. 3 elders survived. They vanished into the underworld of the circle. They rebuilt. They waited. They spent 50 years searching for the lost heir to restore the dynasty's bloodline and power. They believed the heir must be found, claimed, or killed. Amika's father, Tobias Okono, belonged to that surviving faction. But he had been ousted, rejected, humiliated, unable to claim the Okono title because the true heir was alive somewhere. The heir Elias hid. Obi felt a cold wave crawl across his skin. Kayoma whispered, "They were never after Chief Okonkwo. They were after you." Mama Ngozi nodded slowly. That is why the threats began. Why Amika returned. Why the police do nothing. They do not fear Chief Okonkwo's name. They fear the Okono bloodline. Obi breathed out shakily. So all this time, it was never about land, money, or revenge for a lie. Mama Ngozi finished the sentence for him. They want the last Okono heir. Alive or dead. Silence swallowed the room. Kayoma wrapped her arms around herself. But, how do they know? How can Amika know who Obi truly is? No one knew. Mama Ngozi closed her eyes. I made a mistake. A terrible one. 40 years ago. I trusted someone. A friend. A pastor's wife. I told her part of the truth, only that Elias rescued a child. I never gave your name. I never said where you lived. But secrets travel like fire through dry grass. Someone spoke. Someone heard. And now, they have followed the embers to your door. Obi lowered the letter, his mind burning with revelation and dread. If they wanted him, they would take his children first. That's how the circle worked. Kayoma rushed into his arms, her whole body trembling. We need to leave. Tonight. Now. Obi, please. Mama Ngozi shook her head fiercely. You cannot run. Not anymore. They will find you. They have waited 50 years. They have eyes everywhere. Even the police belong to them. Running will only delay the storm. Obi clenched his jaw. Then what do we do? Mama Ngozi looked at him with a haunted gaze, as if she had been rehearsing her answer for decades. There is one person alive who knows the full truth. One person who helped Elias escape. One person who can destroy the circle if we find him. Who? Kayoma whispered. His name is Malachi. He was Elias' closest friend. He disappeared the night the Okono family burned. They say he lives in the old river settlements. In the forgotten villages. Where the world never looks. Obi rose from his seat. We find him. Mama Ngozi shook her head again. You do not understand. Malachi is not hiding from them. He is hiding from you. Because he knows the final truth. Obi stared at her, trembling with a fury he could barely restrain. What truth? She pointed to the envelope. There is one last page. The page Elias warned should never be read unless the world forced you to. The page that explains why the Okono elders fear you so much, Obi. Why they believe you are the key to their power, or their destruction. Obi's breath froze. Kayoma gripped his arm. Slowly, with hands no longer steady, Obi opened the final folded sheet. The handwriting here was different. Desperate. Wild. Written by a man being hunted. And as he read the first line, his heart slammed against his chest. Obinna Okono is not just the last heir. He is the chosen heir. His vision blurred. The room spun. Kayoma gasped. Mama, what does that mean? Chosen for what? Obi continued reading. The eldest Okono never wanted the circle. He wanted out. He wanted freedom. Before the dynasty collapsed, he performed a forbidden ritual. He chose a successor who would end the circle forever. A child born with the mark of the sun and river. A child who carries both the Okono bloodline and the destiny to destroy it. Obi swallowed hard. A memory returned, one he had buried a long time ago. A strange birthmark on his shoulder. A symbol shaped like a rising sun cutting through a river bend. Kayoma slowly lifted his shirt. There it was. The mark. Mama Ngozi nodded in despair. Yes. That is why Elias saved you. That is why he hid you. Not because you were innocent, but because you were the only one who could end the Okono dynasty entirely. Obi stared at his own skin as if it belonged to someone else. A weapon. A prophecy. A hunted king. A living curse. Kayoma stepped in front of him, cupping his face as tears streamed down her cheeks. Obi, you are not a curse. You are not the child of a monster. You are the man I married. The father of my children. The one who built our life with his own hands. This mark does not define you. But Obi barely heard her. Because the final line of the page carved itself into him deeper than any truth before it. A line that would change everything. A line that would ignite a war that had been waiting 50 years. When the chosen heir comes of age, the circle must either crown him or kill his entire bloodline. Obi's knees nearly buckled. Kayoma screamed. No. No, no, no. Mama Ngozi grabbed Kayoma tightly. They will not stop. The threats will not stop. They will come for your children first. That is their way. Obi stumbled back, breath shuddering, vision blurring with rage. His children. His babies. His blood. A fire erupted inside him, hot, violent, unstoppable. For 50 years the circle had waited. For 50 years they hunted him. For 50 years they thought he would run. But Obi stood straighter, taller, darker. The hunted had become the storm. Where do we find Malachi? Mama Ngozi whispered, you will need help. Men you trust. Not police. Not government. No one in power. Only ghosts. Only those who know how to disappear. Obi closed his fist around the letter. Then we become ghosts. Kayoma stepped beside him. I'm going with you. He shook his head. No. You protect the children. She stepped closer, eyes fierce. I am not leaving you. Not for a second. You think I can sleep knowing you're walking into danger alone? You think I will hide while you fight for this family? Their foreheads touched. Her breath melted into his. Her heart synced with his heartbeat. Together. Always. Obi kissed her forehead, his voice low, steady, lethal. Then we go together. Mama Ngozi's voice trembled. If you leave tonight, there is no turning back. Your old life will end. Obi lifted the letter into the candlelight. It ended the moment I opened this envelope. Outside, the wind howled. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere in the darkness, a watcher stepped deeper into the shadows, disappearing like a whisper before dawn. The circle had felt the awakening. Felt the envelope open. Felt the air remember. In the dark corners of the delta, drums began to beat softly, rhythmic, ancient, ominous. The bone drum calling its hunters. The bone drum calling its chosen. And for the first time in 50 years. The bone drum calling the last Okono heir. Night folded itself around the small compound like a shroud as Obi stepped outside, the envelope still clutched in his hand. The moon drifted behind thick clouds, casting the world into a half-darkness that felt both protective and threatening. A wind low and heavy swept in from the river, carrying with it a smell of damp wood and something older, something that smelled like memory. Kayoma followed him, her wrapper pulled tight, her eyes glowing with the same storm that burned inside him. Behind them, Mama Ngozi stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the trembling candlelight. Obina, she whispered, voice cracking under the weight of truth, the moment you step off this land, the circle will feel it. They are bound to you. They always were. Obi didn't turn back. I've been running from their shadow since before I could walk, he said quietly. Tonight, the running ends. Kyoma slipped her hand into his. Then we walk forward. A car engine murmured from the far side of the street. A shift in the darkness. A flicker where no shadow should move. They were being watched. They had been watched for months. But tonight, the watchers would learn the heir didn't intend to die quietly. Obi guided Kyoma toward the old pickup they kept hidden near the back fence, an unremarkable, dented vehicle no one would look at twice. The engine coughed to life, headlights staying off as they rolled silently down the dirt path. Kyoma looked back once at Mama Ngozi standing alone in the doorway. Will she be safe? She whispered. Obi's knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. No. None of us are safe anymore. The road south. The Delta roads stretched like veins through the forest, narrow and winding, bordered by thick mangroves that reached toward them like arms trying to pull them back. The farther they drove, the darker the world became. Villages faded. Houses thinned. Even electricity vanished, swallowed by wilderness older than the country itself. Kyoma stared ahead, whispering, how did Elias keep all this hidden? How did he keep you hidden? Obi kept his eyes fixed on the path as the wheels churned over mud and roots. Elias wasn't just a man. He was a phantom. He knew every road, every river, every place a man could disappear. And he made sure I survived. Kyoma's voice softened. He knew you were different. Obi's jaw clenched. Different. Chosen. Marked. The birthmark on his shoulder burned beneath his shirt as if remembering the words on the letter, words that had chained him to a destiny he never asked for. He whispered, I don't care what the circle thinks I am. My only destiny is protecting you and the children. Kyoma rested her hand on his thigh. Then we face whatever comes. Together. Obi nodded once, but his mind was not calm. Something had awakened inside him since opening that envelope, something ancient, something carried in his blood for generations. A sense of danger sharpened. A sense of purpose deepened. Even the darkness around him felt different. Not like an enemy. But like a witness. The truck rattled across a wooden bridge half-eaten by time. Where exactly are we going? Kyoma finally asked. To the river settlements, Obi said. The letter said Malachi lives somewhere past the old oil fields. A place called Egwudu Bend. Kyoma frowned. I've never heard of that village. No one has, Obi replied. That's why he chose it. The wind howled suddenly through the trees, and Kyoma shivered. What if he's dead, Obi? What if Malachi died years ago? Obi's eyes hardened. Then we find his bones and learn what we can. But we're not turning back. The first sign. Hours passed. The night grew deeper. Suddenly, the truck sputtered. Kyoma jolted. What is that? Obi cursed under his breath. The fuel gauge flickered erratically. We're running low. Impossible, we filled the tank yesterday. The headlights, still off, dimmed into near nothing. A cold feeling slid into Kyoma's spine. Obi, this isn't the truck. Something is wrong. He pulled to the side of the road, cutting the engine. They stepped out into the darkness. The air grew colder, unnaturally cold, as if a winter wind had slipped into the Delta night. Obi scanned the trees. Silence. Too much silence. Not even insects dared to make sound. Then. A drumbeat. Faint. Deep. Rhythmic. Kyoma's eyes widened. What is that? Obi didn't breathe. He knew that drum. He had heard it in nightmares. He had heard it in the stories Elias whispered on nights when fear was too thick to swallow. The bone drum. Calling. Calling the air. calling the hunters. Kyoma grabbed his arm. Obi, they're close. Obi moved around the truck, opening the glove compartment and pulling out an old revolver he had once sworn never to use. No more running. He loaded the chamber, gripping it tight. Then the drum stopped. The silence slammed into them like a wave. A whisper drifted through the trees. Not a voice. Not human. Something older than dialect. A whisper like wind passing over a grave. Kyoma clung to his arm. Obi, please, let's leave. This place, this path, it's wrong. He took a step toward the darkness. Stay behind me. Something moved in the tree line. Quick. Silent. Watching. Obi raised the gun. Come out. Nothing. Then. A figure stepped into the moonlight. A child. Barefoot. Clothed in rags soaked with river water. Eyes hollow and ancient. Kyoma gasped. Oh my God. The child stared straight at Obi, unblinking. Then he whispered with a voice that sounded like mud sliding through reeds. The river has been waiting for you. Obi stepped back. Who are you? The child didn't blink. Follow. Kyoma shook her head. No. Absolutely not. Obi, this child is wrong. Something is wrong. But Obi felt it. A pull in his blood. A recognition. Like the river inside him answering a call. He lowered the gun slowly. I think he's leading us to Malachi. Kyoma grabbed his shirt. Obi, this is madness. He squeezed her hand. I trust you with my life. But right now, you have to trust my blood. The child turned and glided deeper into the trees. Obi followed. Kyoma cursed under her breath and hurried after him. The forest swallowed them whole. The river of lost names. The path became marshy. Mud swallowed their feet with each step. The trees grew thicker, roots twisting like serpents across the ground. Fireflies blinked in eerie patterns, forming symbols in the air. The child walked ahead without sound, his body weightless, his feet barely touching the earth. Kyoma whispered, Obi, this child, he's not alive. Obi clenched the gun tighter. I know. But he kept walking. The air grew colder. The forest opened into a clearing. And there it was. The river. Wide. Black. Silent. Its surface reflected no stars. Obi froze. He had been here before. Not in body. But in dreams. Dreams that haunted him since childhood. Kyoma covered her mouth. This place, it feels like it remembers something. The child stopped at the riverbank and pointed toward the water. He waits below. Obi stared at the dark surface. Malachi is in the river? The child nodded once. Everything the circle fears sleeps in the river. Kyoma stepped back. No. No, Obi. We're not going into that water. I won't let you. Obi stared at his reflection, except it wasn't a reflection. The water showed him wearing something he wasn't. A red cloak. A crown of bone. Eyes glowing like embers. He stumbled back. Kyoma screamed softly. Obi, what did you see? He didn't answer. Because the water shifted. A shape rose beneath the surface. A hand. Old. Dark. Veined with scars. It broke through the surface. Followed by a head. A chest. A man. He rose from the river like a ghost returning to the world. Tall. Lean. Bearded. Eyes sharp as knives. Malachi. Alive. And not alive. A man who had stepped so far into the shadow of the world that the living barely remembered him and the dead refused to claim him. He spoke, his voice deep and echoing with time. Obina Okono. Obi stiffened. You know me. Malachi stepped forward, water sliding off him without soaking his clothes. I carried you the night your bloodline burned. I kept Elias alive long enough to save you. I have waited 50 years for you to return. Kyoma grabbed Obi's hand. Obi straightened. Why? Why are we here? Malachi's eyes pierced his soul. Because the circle is coming. Because the prophecy has awakened. Because the bone drum sings your name. He pointed to Obi's mark. And because you are the last heir of a dynasty meant to either rule the Delta or bury it. Kyoma whispered, trembling. Why us? Why our family? Malachi looked at her with surprising softness. Because he chose you, he said simply. The chosen heir cannot fulfill the prophecy without a witness of love, a heart that anchors him. Without you, Kyoma, Obi is only blood. With you, he is destiny. Kyoma swallowed, tears gathering. Obi stepped forward, voice rough. What do they want from me? Malachi's face hardened. They want your bloodline. They want your children. They want your mark. Because the heir's blood unlocks the circle's full power. If they cannot crown you, they will kill your family to end the lineage forever. Obi's breath shook. Then teach me how to fight them. Malachi nodded slowly. But his next words shattered the night. To fight them. You must first confront what Elias never told you. The truth he feared would break you. What truth? Malachi pointed to the river. Your father. Your real father. The one whose blood you carry. The one who made you the chosen heir. Obi felt his chest tighten. Kyoma shook her head. No. Malachi, no. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need more pain. Malachi stepped closer, his presence cold as the river. The Okono dynasty did not die 50 years ago. Only most of it. One man survived. One man escaped the massacre he started. One man who still walks this earth. Obi stared at him, unable to breathe. Malachi whispered the name like a curse. Tobias Okono. Kyoma gasped. That's Amika's father. Malachi nodded. And yours. Obi staggered back as if struck. No. No. Kyoma grabbed him, holding him, grounding him, but Obi felt the world tilt. Tobias Okono. The man hunting them. The man threatening their children. The man who nearly killed Elias. The man soaked in blood. That monster was his father. Obi collapsed to his knees, breath breaking in fragments. Malachi stepped forward, placing a cold hand on his shoulder. You were born into darkness, Obina. But Elias pulled you into the light. Your blood is a curse. Your destiny is a weapon. But your choices will decide whether the Delta burns or finally breathes. Obi slowly lifted his face, eyes blazing with something new. Not fear. Not confusion. Rebirth. What do I need to do? Malachi pointed toward the river's edge. There is a ritual. A trial only the chosen heir can survive. A trial that will reveal your true power. Or kill you. Kyoma screamed, absolutely not. He is not doing anything that risks his life. Obi stood. I will do whatever it takes to protect my family. Malachi's expression remained unreadable. Then step forward, heir of Okono. Step into the river of ghosts. Step into your true name. Obi moved. Kyoma clutched his arm, tears streaming. If you die, I die with you. He kissed her forehead. I won't die. Not tonight. He stepped toward the river. The water rippled. The child watched with hollow eyes. Malachi raised his hands. The trees bent. The wind changed. The world held its breath. Obi stepped into the water. Cold like knives. Cold like ancient memory. Cold like the grave. The river swallowed him. Kyoma screamed. Malachi held her back with a grip of iron. He must endure the past. And then the river consumed him whole. Darkness. Silence. Then a heartbeat. Not his, but the heartbeat of a dynasty. A heartbeat calling him deeper. 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 Into the shadow of the Okono bloodline. The darkness around Kweku did not feel empty. It throbbed, slow, ancient, alive, like the pulse of something that had crawled through centuries just to reach him. Thumb, thumb, thumb. Each beat vibrated through his bones, tugging him downward as if the river were no longer water but a living tunnel pulling him into its hidden ribs. He tried to scream, but the river swallowed the sound. He tried to swim, but the current gripped him like a giant hand. Then the darkness shifted. A glow bloomed beneath him, burning gold, shaped like a sprawling tree with roots twisting in every direction. The Okono tree. Its branches shimmered with symbols he had seen only in his late grandmother's stories, the stories Malachi always told him to forget. But the river remembered. And it wanted him to remember too. Kweku's body dropped gently onto a surface that wasn't water, wasn't land, something in between. His feet touched a floor of woven light, warm and steady like the heartbeat that guided him here. A whisper slid through the void. Kweku, son of Amina, grandson of the forgotten branch. He spun around, heart thudding. A shape formed from the darkness, first mist, then bone, then flesh. An old man, tall and thin, with eyes that glowed like molten bronze. His voice rolled like thunder forced into human form. You have carried our shame long enough. Kweku staggered back. Who are you? The figure stepped closer, and his footsteps echoed like drumbeats. I am Okono Adoi, the first to bind our bloodline to the river. The one who began what should have ended long before your birth. Kweku's breath caught. My grandmother said you were a myth. Otto's laugh was a low, sorrowful rumble. Myth? No. I am the reason your mother died. And the reason Malachi runs from the truth. The darkness thickened, pressing in from all sides. Kweku shook his head. My mother died in childbirth. That's what I was told. Otto's eyes dimmed. That is the lie. The lie that keeps you blind. The lie that keeps the dynasty's curse alive. A wind rose from nowhere, carrying the scent of iron and rain. Kweku, you were never meant to be born, Otto said. But now that you exist, you must finish what the rest of us feared. The ground trembled beneath them. What curse? Kweku demanded. Otto lifted a hand, and the river above them parted like curtains. Through the thin veil of water, Kweku saw flashes, faces twisted in pain, men kneeling with chains around their necks, a woman screaming as flames swallowed her home. The Okono bloodline was built on a pact, Otto said softly, and every generation must pay for what I did. Kweku stepped forward, the golden surface rippling under his weight. And what do you want from me? Otto leaned in until his glowing eyes filled Kweku's entire world. To break the blood pact, he whispered. Or die carrying it. A deafening roar erupted above them. The river began collapsing inward, lightning flashing through the water, shadows writhing within the currents. Otto's form flickered. They are coming. Who? Kweku shouted. Otto's voice cracked like a whip. The keepers of the pact. The ones Malachi has been hiding you from. The world shuddered. The heartbeat of the dynasty quickened, pounding like war drums. Otto pushed Kweku backward, his form dissolving into thousands of glowing shards. Run, child of Amina. The golden floor cracked open beneath Kweku's feet. And he fell. Into a darkness far more violent than the first. A darkness that did not welcome him. A darkness that wanted to devour him.